I'm more excited for the undercard fight. I don't know where on the card it should lie, but probably co-main event, which is Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson, because these guys are much younger and
Don't quite have exactly the boxing resume that Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. have.
not quite. but
They do have the age on their side.
Yeah, and Jake Paul, even though he's a very inexperienced boxer, has more experience than all the people he's ever boxed.
Right.
So, and Nate Robinson is no exception to that. Nate is a high-level athlete, one of the greatest athletes the world's ever seen. If you've made it to the NBA, you're a high-level athlete, and if you can dunk at 5'7" over 7-footers, needless to say, you're a great athlete. But boxing is not just about athletics; it's about understanding the sport. And everybody thinks they know how to fight until it comes time to fight, or box or something like that. You don't look at. Everybody, for some reason, looks at fighting and go, "Oh, well, I could probably do that." Instinctual, the human instinct would just kick in, fight or flight type of stuff. Nobody ever says that, which is crazy because boxing and MMA are sports. Right. Nobody ever says, I could probably play basketball. I could probably play football pretty well, because it's a sport, and people don't realize that it's the exact same thing. You have to put the same amount of time and learning and skill development into boxing or MMA that you do in
it's like speaking another language. It's like learning a new language. That would be as absurd as somebody just saying who's never spoken Spanish before, "Oh, I think, couple days and I got it."
Yeah.
No, you don't. There's a lot of intricacies, and to be to communicate at the highest of levels in any combat sport, and boxing is certainly no exception, you have got to be incredibly skilled.
Yeah, and we don't have much to go off of. I saw Nate Robinson's footage of him, that he's posted on Instagram, and he looks like every dad in a cardio kickboxing class. He doesn't move right. He doesn't. If you just saw that and you didn't know who he was, you wouldn't think he was a world-class athlete. You would just be like, "Oh, this guy just is trying boxing gloves on for the first time ever." Jake Paul still doesn't move like a professional, even though he is technically a professional boxer, but he does move a lot more like a boxer than Nate Robinson.
Yeah, I think the fight is going to simply come down to this. Because, as you said, both of these guys, as far as boxing, like a repertoire of boxing skill, they don't have it.
Yeah.
However, Jake Paul has a little bit better skill set in boxing than Nate Robinson does. So I think the story here to tell is really going to be, can Nate Robinson, because I would, and I don't think you would disagree with me here, that Nate Robinson is a much better athlete than Jake Paul.
For sure.
Can Nate Robinson make up the difference in that he's lacking in boxing ability with pure athletic acumen? And I think, and so I would almost, for those jiu-jitsu people out there, if you want to break this down into like a analogy that's jiu-jitsu related, let's say you have a guy who's a 4-stripe white belt, or a new blue belt. For example, he's been doing jiu-jitsu a year and a half, 2 years. And you have, and he's an average to above average athlete. And then you bring in a super athlete, let's say a Trent Richardson back in the day when he was running for Alabama, our Heisman Trophy winner, which Nate Robinson, at 5'7", winning a dunking contest, as you said, is one of the best athletes of all time as far as athletic ability.
Right.
Can that person who's a brand new 1 week in, 2 weeks in white belt successfully defeat or pin or whatever you want to call it the guy who's been doing it for a year and a half or 2 years who doesn't have the athletic ability? And the answer, as you know, is sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And it really depends on the case. And so I really think that the story here to be told is Nate and here's the other point that I think is important to note. What makes an athlete such a good athlete is their ability to pick up skills quickly.
Right.
Nate Robinson has 8 weeks to pick up boxing skills. We saw Nate Robinson hitting pads, I think it was last week when that video was taken. Nate Robinson 8 weeks from now is going to learn at a curve much higher than, as you said, the soccer dad who's doing cardio kickboxing.
Right.
So I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and say that Nate Robinson's going to win this fight. I think he's just. I think that people are underestimating how athletic you have to be to win the dunk competition at 5'7" and be in the NBA for that many years. His season where he averaged 17 points a game. I mean, you're talking about a super athlete against a YouTuber. And I don't mean that disrespectfully towards Jake Paul. He does train boxing. He does put the work in. I've seen him do the videos, but this is not the same level of athleticism. And I think Nate's going to get it done.
Yeah, I think it's a big step up in competition from the other YouTuber Jake fought last and Nate Robinson. I don't know if Jake Paul has that high level boxing to where it can negate the athleticism of Nate. I think Nate, just even though boxing's cardio is totally different than sports cardio, he has better cardio than Jake. I don't think Jake has the power to knock him out. I think this goes all the way to the judges, and just for fun, because it's his first fight, I'd like to see Nate Robinson win. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's one of those. It's like the Mike Tyson. I don't really know. I wouldn't really make a prediction. I definitely wouldn't bet on this. I think Jake's gonna look sharp in the first round, and then it's just gonna become a slugfest like all novice boxing matches become.
And I'll just make a point here for everybody that has, shown a lot of hatred or disdain for these type of one-off YouTube, whatever you want to call this, social media influencer fights that are taking place. I take a little bit different approach to it. I don't have a problem with people willingly signing on the dotted line and competing. I think it takes a lot of guts for anybody to get in there and throw punches with another person that's trying to throw punches back at them standing across from them. I think people discount sometimes how much courage that actually does take. So for these guys to get in there and do that, some of who have no athletic background whatsoever, I applaud that. I think that we just have to appreciate it for what it is. Yeah. It's a show. It's a one-off. Yeah, we get it. You're not going to see Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez in there. Don't expect it.
Right.
But guess what? The casual YouTube fan who would never tune in to watch Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko prior might just do that now because they become a fan of boxing, because they sign up to watch Jake Paul, and then they end up watching what ends up being a great fight on the card, and say, man, this is a cool sport. I'm going to start checking this out more.
Right.
And then you get somebody to kind of dip their toe into the sport. And I don't have any problem with that. Like I said, me and you are old-time MMA combat sports boxing fans. You have a boxing record.
Right.
But I'm not mad at the casuals either. The casuals make the sport.
And there's room for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that I'm not going to be watching this fight to try to pick up any techniques or try to break down for you guys what Nate did that was so intelligent in the ring, because we all know that that's not going to happen.
It takes years to develop.
But I'm going to break down the fact that, hey, other boxers, other fighters, take note. Look at how these guys sold this fight. Mm-hmm. Look at how Logan sold the fight the first time against KSI, and then the second time. Like, this is what you should be picking up instead of hating on this as a young fighter or up and comer. Like, learn from this. Learn how to build your fan base. These guys obviously know how to do that.
Yeah, do whatever you can to get on those cards, and hopefully boxing figures it out that the only way to benefit from these one-offs and these YouTube events and these types of fights is to stack the card with other fighters that you would like to groom and grow and showcase to the world. That's the problem boxing has, is they put next to nobodies all the way up the cards until the main event, and nobody pays attention to any of that. But if they took a playbook out of the UFC's book of moves, stack the whole card, put people in there, pepper them in that you want the world to know about, these young up and comers that are boxing and you want to get their name out there. And obviously Mike Tyson's a big name. People that are young know who that is, know who they want to see him fight, even if he is 54. Most people probably don't even know that. So throw in your next generation of boxers under those guys, and then they know Jake Paul, and they either love him or they hate him, but they're going to tune in to watch him. So you'll get the trickle down effect if you throw your fighters in there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that fight's in September, but it just got announced, so we thought we'd break it down a bit for you guys. But yeah, we will certainly be watching that. The Barnhill brothers will be tuning in.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see Mike Tyson in there with Roy Jones. Even though it's well past both of their primes, it's something that I'm interested in seeing as even an exhibition sort of thing. And I'm interested to see how well a super athlete can take to boxing and see how quickly he can develop skills, and if it's going to be enough to get past somebody who does have a little bit more of a pedigree in boxing, albeit not much.
Yeah, and I know we don't have the most in-depth predictions for these fights, and maybe later on, closer to the fight, we'll have them. But I want to know what the general public thinks. Who do you think is going to win between Roy Jones and Mike Tyson, and who do you think is going to win between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson? Because I just want to get a feel for
that could literally be all over the place. You guys let us know, because we really have no idea.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the fights this weekend. There's some really good ones you don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And if you're listening on the audio versions, we're available on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Podbean, literally wherever you guys listen to podcasts. Please go on and leave us a review. Means a lot. Thanks so much, guys, and enjoy the fights this weekend. The Barnhill brothers will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.